Hey, welcome to your next best step with Brek, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and we take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Only 33% of employees trust their senior leaders. Let me say that again. Only 33% of employees trust their senior leaders. 80% say their workplace is toxic. Here's a separate stat that should stop you as hard as that first stat. 86% of leaders believe their people trust them completely. What? That's a 50% gap in perception of what the leaders think and what employees think about their leaders. That is crazy. That's not a stat about bad companies. That's a stat about blind spots. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hey, welcome back to your next best step, the leaders' locker room, where leaders go to slow down, get real, become rooted so that we can lead others better. I'm BC. Glad to have you here back with us today. Man, this area about trust. You know, you hear me. If you're a regular listener, watcher, my framework, I believe this to my core. Everything depends on trust, and there is certainly a huge issue about trust in our society today. Whether that is trust with our leaders at work, trust with our leaders nationally, trust with our leaders at church or in our community, in our cities, there's a big gap. There's been if we've talked about this, like if trust was like a trust account versus a bank account, there's been a lot of withdrawals in the trust account in so many spaces and places. And over my lifetime, I've been in a lot of different rooms. I've been in locker rooms. I've been in boardrooms. I've been in community rooms. I've been in rooms where it's just one-on-one groups, large groups. And this is what I believe and I hold true. In every single one of those rooms, I'll say it again, everything depends on trust. I want to help leaders become who they aspire to be and who their people actually need them to be. Leaders, everyone deserves to be led well, starting with ourselves. And that's not just a slogan for me. That's the whole reason why I do my coaching. It's why this podcast exists. Don Miller talks about this in his work on messaging at StoryBrand. He says, clarifying what you stand for isn't enough. You also have to be clear what you stand against. And Dave Novak, who built How Leaders Lead, a great podcast website that I follow regularly, says it about as plainly as I've ever heard it. He says it this way at How Leaders Lead. We create resources with one goal in mind: to take down toxic work culture and stop dysfunctional leadership. That's his against: toxic culture, dysfunctional leadership. No hedging, no soft language there. Here's mine. I'm against the blind spot. I'm against the quiet assumption that the soil is fine when nobody's actually checking it. I'm against leaders finding out too late that the trust they thought they had was never really there. So today we're going to talk about that gap, a gap most leaders don't even know exists. And I want to give you a real way to close that gap. You've heard me say this before, I'll say it again. Everything depends on trust. Trust is the soil that all good things grows out of. Only 33% of employees trust their senior leaders. That means 2 out of every 3 people on your team, leader, right now, they don't fully trust you. Not because you're a bad leader, not because you don't care, but because trust doesn't erode all at once. It erodes in the ordinary moments that nobody's tracking. It's the meeting where you said you'd follow up back in January, and it's now July, and you haven't done it. And you haven't even sent them a text, an email saying, I haven't forgot about you. I haven't forgot about this conversation. No, you just forgot. You just avoided it. You just dismissed it. It's the moment you choose to look strong instead of looking honest. It's the silence when someone needed you to say the hard thing and you let it pass. Trust is soil, and soil doesn't go bad overnight. It gets depleted one small withdrawal at a time. Here's an interesting interaction that King David in ancient Israel had with Yahweh, his God. He talks about it in the book of Psalms, and I think it's interesting. I'm going to reference the New Living Translation, but this is David is asking God, search me, know my heart, and point out anything in me that seems off, so he can be led onto the path that actually lasts. Wow, leader, if we talk about that in today's terms, that's not a comfortable prayer. That's not a comfortable ask. He's not asking God to confirm what he already believes about himself. He's asking to be searched. That's the posture we need today, leader. Not confidence in how we think we're leading, but a willingness to actually find out. The courage look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Now, I want to give some grace here because this part is where we usually miss it in kind of leadership development content. 86% of leaders believe their people trust them. That number isn't there because leaders are lying to themselves. It's there because of something almost every leader experiences and almost nobody names. The higher you go, the fewer people will tell you the truth. Not because they're cowards, because it's not safe. Somebody softens the feedback. Somebody hints instead of naming it directly. Somebody decides the risk of being honest with you isn't worth what it might cost them. And by the time it reaches you, what you're hearing isn't reality anymore. It's filtered. It's a filtered version of reality. And you've been making decisions, leader, based on that filtered version the entire time without ever knowing it was filtered. A limiting belief isn't usually the problem. It's the conclusion. Something is driving it, right? We're going to talk about this. This is why I say so often, until you go find out what that something is, every attempt to fix the symptom just leaves the root untouched. Go back to that verse. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Isn't just something David says once. It's a posture. You and I have to keep returning to the question, what's it like on the other side of me at various angles? What's it like on the other side of the office? What's it like on the other side of our department? What's it like on the other side of our organization, of our vertical, whatever that is? And we have to keep returning to it, because the moment we stop asking to be searched is the moment the gap starts quietly growing again. So here's the question I want to leave as kind of rattling around in your head this week. What do you actually do with this information once you hear it or see it or receive it? This is where most leadership development kind of stops. You feel the conviction, you nod along, you move on with your week. Oh, thanks for that. That was really helpful, I think. And we move on. But awareness without action, gang, is just more informed way of staying stuck. So I built a process for this. I call it EDOT. Everything depends on trust. That's a belief of mine, but it's also a framework. It has 4 moves. We're going to look at it today. E, examine. Stop assuming the soil is fine. Go find out what's actually true. Ask somebody a real question and let them answer it without you defending yourself. This is the search me move. You asking someone else to do this for you in real life. What David asked God to do for him, you're asking others to do for you. You got to examine it. You got to stop assuming that the trust, you got to stop assuming, well, that's everybody else's employees. That's certainly not mine. That's E, examine. The next one is define. Get specific about where trust is strong and where it has grown thin. Vague awareness doesn't change anything. Precision does. Clarity does. So you got to define it. That means you got to name it. You got to bring it from the darkness into the light. And when we do that in any scenario, now all of a sudden things begin to change. The third movement, own. We talked about E, examine, D, define, now O, own. This is where most leaders tap out of the process. If I'm honest, it's a lot easier to examine something than it is to own your part in it. But we have to own it. Not everyone else's part, not the organization's part, not somebody else. No, your part, my part. And when we do that, when we examine, when we define, when we own it, guess what gets to be rebuilt? Trust. Rebuild deliberately, one honest interaction at a time. Trust isn't restored by some speech. It's restored by patterns. It's the follow through nobody's clapping for. It's the promise you keep when it would have been easier to just let it slide. That's the whole posture of Psalms 139, lived out in leadership. Stop assuming, ask to be searched, and let what you find lead you somewhere better instead of somewhere more comfortable. Here's the challenge. I don't want to leave you with just something to think about. I want to leave you with something to do, your next best step. I'm going to give you 3 things. Any one of these or combination over the next week would be really helpful. So you can write these down, file them away. Number 1, run and examine conversation. Pick one person on your team. Ask them. No ramifications, no kickback, nothing. I want you to be completely honest with me. What's it like on the other side of me? Really? And don't just let them play it off. Their first answer is likely the safest answer. And you just go, what else? And they get a little bit more courageous. And then they'll give you a little bit more. You go, wow. Did not see that. Thank you. What else? And you keep pulling the thread and asking what else without defending, dismissing, spiritualizing, whatever it is. You just keep asking until the well is dry, until they say, I don't know, boss. I think that's pretty much it. And then you ask one final, what's the last 10% you're afraid to say? And you be quiet. And you let them answer. And if they said, no, I think that's it. Or if they say, well, They start doing that, give them safety. Hey, I want to hear it. Listen, I want to get better. We need to get better as an organization, and we can't get better as an organization if I don't get better as the leader. And then you let them say it. Number 2, name one specific withdrawal, not a vague, I could communicate better, a specific moment. Maybe it's, I said I'd follow up on that conversation back in January, and I didn't do it. And you go acknowledge that one thing directly to that one person that came to your mind when you heard me talking about it. Do it before this week is out. Number 3, make one deposit visible. Choose one small, concrete promise, something you can keep within 7 days, and follow through on it in a way people actually can notice. Trust isn't rebuilt by announcing change. It's rebuilt by people watching you do the thing you said you would do all along. Leader, closing. Here's the real question underneath everything we've talked about today. Do you want to actually address the gap, or do you want to keep pretending that all is well? Let me ask the question again. 33%, that's 2 out of 3 of your people don't fully trust you. Are you okay with that? Or do you want to narrow the gap? I remind leaders of the leader they say they wanted to be. That's the work, not a keynote, not a vision statement on the wall, the ordinary, unremarkable moments nobody's watching. Everything depends on trust. Trust is the soil from which everything grows. Go check your soil this week with your people. Hey, if this episode landed with you, send it to a leader who needs to hear it, and I'd love for you to leave a review. It helps the show reach more leaders who are ready to take their next best step. Hey, and if you would like another conversation, anything about this, how I can maybe help you and your organization, hey, just go to my website, bcleadershipco.com. That's bc@bcleadershipco.com is my email, or you can go to my website, bcleadershipco.com, bcleadershipco.com. Either way, would love to hear from you. God bless. Have a great week. See you back here next week.